Why should I feel discouraged? And tell me why should the shadows come? Why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven's home? When Jesus is, He's my portion, a constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, yeah, and I know He watches me.
Faith could move the mountains, let the mountains move. We come with expectation, waiting here for you. Waiting here for you, Lord. There we are. Waiting here for you. You're the Lord. You're the Lord of all creation. And still you know my heart, the author of salvation. You've loved us from the start. Waiting here for you, with our hands lifted high in praise. And it's you we adore, singing hallelujah. Waiting here for you, Lord. Waiting here for you. You're everything you promised. You are everything you promised. Your faithfulness is true. We're desperate for your presence. All we need is you. Waiting here for you, with our hands lifted high in praise. And it's you we adore, singing hallelujah. where I'm still in your presence, all the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. So all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Oh, 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 oh. You're the fire in the morning. You're the fire in the morning. You're the cool in the evening, the breath in my soul, oh, the life in my bones. There is no hesitation in your love and affection. It's the sweetest of all. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Open up my heart to you. Open up my heart to you now, to do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you, yeah, Lord. Open up my heart to you now, to do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. All I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Oh, oh, oh. Spirit, lead me. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now, to do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now, to do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now.
Hey, good morning, everybody. As we head into giving, I wanted to just give you an encouragement from 1 Peter chapter 4. It says, "Be generous with the different things God gave you, passing them around so all get in on it. If words, let it be God's words. If help, let it be God's hearty help." And I just thought about, in this season, it's so hard to know how to be generous beyond ourselves because most of us are not able to go places and be generous, or maybe we're just watching or living paycheck to paycheck, or wondering where the next paycheck will come from, or whatever it might be. But I just wanted to be that reminder that Food Pantry is still happening. Laundry Love is still essential. There are so many things that are still happening. There are still needs that need to be addressed. And I just wanted to encourage you to ask yourself how you're being generous in this season, how you can be generous with what God's given you, and or maybe, how can you start being generous, or even continue when it's hard? There are lots of ways to give. You can give online, you can give on the app, you can send a check-in. But I just want to encourage you to ask yourself, how am I being generous? Or how can I continue or start today? So we love you. Thanks, guys.
Breathe on me now. Open your mouth and speak the words that heal this broken ground. Say what you will as we are still, as we breathe in the very breath of God. Oh, Spirit of God, here with us now, giving us life again. Breathe on us now, fill us with your love, send us with your power, Spirit of God. Spirit of God. Breathe on us now. Open your mouth and speak the words that heal this broken ground. Say what you will. Show us your will as we breathe in the very breath of God. So, Spirit of God, here with us now, giving us life again. Breathe on us now, fill us with your love, send us with your power, Spirit of God. Giving us life again. Breathe on us now, fill us with your love, send us with your power, Spirit of God. Spirit of God.
Hey, welcome everybody. Good to be with you here this morning. I'm Greg. I'm part of the team here at Alongsiders. So just thanks so much for joining in and being with us here in the morning. I'm once again coming from my bedroom with my uncut hair. You're all very welcome for that. I want to quickly just thank Eddie B. For sharing his voice with us this morning. I've always asked that he would sing, and I'm so glad you got to hear the magic that comes out of that man's body. I don't know about you guys, but this week I've been reading a lot and trying to slow down the mind by walking when I can, trying to listen through all the noise of social media or just media in general. And earlier in the week, I was reading a book from the author and Episcopal priest, Barbara Brown Taylor. And she said something along the lines of this. After becoming disillusioned with my faith, she said she resumed the work of loving God and her neighbor as self-forgetfully as possible. This is more than enough of Christian teaching for a lifetime, she said. And then she said, it seems unlikely that I will ever get around to selling all my possessions or giving anyone forgiving anyone 77 times. Most days, she says, I cannot even bridle my tongue, but I can love more, she says. I know I can do that. And I also know how much it can cost me if I were to love more, which is the reason why I don't love more. Now, I began to muse on which parts of the scripture do I find to be the more than enough Christian teaching for me. Meaning this, if I could just keep pressing into these words of Jesus or those words of Jesus, would they take root in me and then begin to turn me into the direction of what Jesus meant by them? And would they really, really honestly affect my daily life? Now, maybe like you, there are many moments in the life and the teaching and in the parables of Jesus that rise to the surface as I consider that type of question. For me, it's the story of the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years. That's always impacted my life. It could be the story of the father and the young son and the elder son, or what is known as the prodigal story, which is really, really speaking to me in these last months, or the story of the woman at the well. The entire Sermon on the Mount for me, the parable of the widow and the unjust judge in Luke chapter 18, and just generally the death and the resurrection of Jesus. I mean, any of it, all of that, I could stay within those areas within the life and the teaching of Jesus, and hopefully they can do the work in me. But there really is one scripture that I've actually tattooed on my body, and out of all of the words of Jesus, the one that's actually tattooed on my body is not even the words of Jesus, but they're actually the words of John the Baptist. Now, John the Baptist is considered the forerunner of Jesus, or the one who comes to prepare the way for Jesus. And the verse on my arm is John chapter 3, verse 30. These words John speaks, "He must increase, but I must decrease." That comes from the NRSV version. The NIV version says it this way: "He must become greater, I must become less." I love how the Message transliteration says it this way: "He moves to the center while I slip off to the sidelines." Now, these words of John the Baptist came out of a discussion that John's disciples were having with a Jew concerning purification. I know it's a typical conversation that you probably have each and every day, purification. But John is baptizing people in the countryside, and they come to John, his disciples do, and they say this to him: "Hey, Rabbi, the one who you were with across the Jordan," they're referring to Jesus, "to whom you testified, he's baptizing and everyone is going over to him." He's now baptizing and everybody's taken off and going over to him. Now, if we were to contemplate this moment, get inside the story and the characters within it, use our imagination a little bit, what seems to come to the surface in John's disciples is really just envy. It's just envy. Hey, all of the attention is going over there. It's not on us anymore. More people are going over to him. They're not sticking around with us anymore. More people are showing up over there, and we're losing people right now, John. That should matter to you. It should matter to you. And if we're honest, which I know all of you are who are watching, who hasn't felt the emotional spike of envy, right? Envy, that feeling bitter when others have it better, or feeling bitter when others are receiving more attention, they're receiving more concern, they're receiving more focus than maybe we are. Envy traditionally is located within what is known as the 7 deadly sins. And Joseph Epstein says, of all the deadly sins, only envy is no fun at all. Envy is no fun at all. And the reason it's no fun at all is because envy is the enemy of love. Envy is the enemy of love. Envy is opposed to love, for envy is self-seeking and it can be so self-destructive. John responds to the concern of his disciples as well as to the concern of their envy. In verse 27, he says this: "No one can receive anything except what has been given from heaven. You yourselves are my witnesses that I said, I am not the Messiah, but I have been sent ahead of him." Now, in addition to this verse, no less than 3 other times, John actually announces Jesus is superior to himself, indicating that he and Jesus are not in competition, but that John's career is precisely to herald or to give the mic over to Jesus. In John 1:15, it says, "He who comes after me ranks before me, for he was before me." John 1:26 and 27, "Among you stands one whom you do not know, even he who comes after me, the thongs of whose sandals I am unworthy to untie." In chapter 1, verse 30, "This is he of whom I said, after me comes a man who ranks before me, for he was before me." John then used the beautiful imagery of a friend, of a bride, and a bridegroom, all speaking of love. In verse 29, he responds to his disciples by saying, "He who has the bride is the bridegroom. The friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly at the bridegroom's voice. For this reason," John says, "my joy has been fulfilled. He must increase, but I must decrease." To love is to seek others' good and rejoice when they have it, which is really John's word. John's is using imagery. He is the friend of the bridegroom, Jesus, and we are the bride. The Bible tells us, using the imagery, that we, the people, are the bride of Christ. And so John understands that the bride is meant to go toward the bridegroom and vice versa. And knowing this, John rejoices. He says, "For this very reason, my joy has been fulfilled. He must increase and I must decrease." It's not about me today, guys. It's about him. It's never been about me. I've just been preparing the way for him. And the greatest commandment instructs us, as you all know, to love God above all and our neighbors as ourselves. See, the problem with envy is that envy directly undercuts love of neighbor. If envy is not confessed, if envy is not contained or challenged, envy gives rise to hate, and murder is hatred's bitter fruit. And we see this at play in the Old Testament story of Joseph and his brothers in Genesis. Jacob, the father, loves Joseph, the younger one, more than any of his older sons. And the brothers notice this and they hate Joseph because of it, to the point they can't even speak peacefully to him or about him. And soon after, the other brothers begin to devise a plan to kill their younger brother, Joseph. And as we know, this is what happens to Jesus himself. People, religious people specifically, and others begin to scheme or make plans to kill Jesus. They envied Jesus' voice. They envied his life and the attention that he would give toward people, how he would prop others up, like the lepers, the tax collectors, the poor and the peasants, the sick and the abused, the wounded, and anybody that was pushed down or pushed out, even those of different race, the Samaritans. He would seek to embrace and let them know how important that they were. And this drove people nuts in that society because, or at least the religious folk, because they watched how people would go to him. The throngs and the masses and the crowds would move towards him. And there's an envy that you read about within the heart and the mind and eventually the actions of these religious leaders. Now, John's words, "He must increase and I must decrease. He must increase and I must decrease." That phrase, those words, I put on my arm. I tattooed that verse on my body because I see it as such a loving act. A loving act, a subversive act, an upside down action and orientation. And John provides his disciples an example to follow. Hey guys, it's not about me and it's not about really what we're doing as much as it's about what's happening and what's to come. For me to tattoo it on my arm is really a daily invitation, a reminder, if you will, for me to recognize that what I've received is given from heaven, life. All that what I have come to know is given, it's a gift from God, as John earlier notes in this story. But it also reminds me to serve those around me, to see people purely, to try to listen to people intently, Now, have I achieved this? Well, of course I have. No, I have not. I have not achieved this, but it's my daily attempt. It's my daily practice. It's what I try to lean into. And my body has that mark to remind me of what it means for me to decrease and for him to increase. For me to fall back and for him to be in the front. To decrease may sound negative to you, but for me, decreasing doesn't minimize, it doesn't dilute my worth or my importance or my belovedness. Decreasing, or giving over the mic, if you will, actually elevates the opportunities for me to learn, for me to listen, for me to understand, and for me to mature and to grow as a man and as a human being. This week I walked in solidarity with the African American community and so many others in peaceful protest. Once in Portland, and then once with my family where I live. I walked to increase my listening and decrease my assumption. I walked to increase my learning and to decrease my ignorance. I walked to increase my love and to decrease my apathy. I walked to increase my discomfort and increase my discomfort and decrease my comforts and my privilege. I walk to increase my compassion toward everyone, toward all, and decrease the noise that's so easy for me to get entangled in. And I walked to increase the voice of Jesus and decrease my own. What about you? What in you needs to increase and what in you needs to decrease? Each and every week we come and we take 3 minutes of engagement, 3 minutes of reflection for us to take a question and allow it to do what it needs to do inside of us and for us to consider. And so I invite you to consider this question. Consider it with intention. Consider in light of what we are witnessing across the world and specifically in our city and our nation. Consider it in light of where your heart may sit today, right now. What in you needs to increase and what in you needs to decrease. Today, this Sunday is traditionally known as Trinity Sunday. And so I want to close this morning with a summons, a call to you alongsiders and friends, a call to educate, to listen, and engage, or what we call living alongside. Now, I believe, maybe like you, we are living in some historic times, and I believe the role of the church is essential in these days. And these are the days where, by the Spirit, we are to increase and decrease, to provide a path to the heart and to the life of Jesus, to bear a witness to Him who is greater than us, and yet seeks companionship with us. How are we going to do that? Well, I think we have the opportunity today to increase by educating ourselves in the history and modern pain of systemic racism. Increase by listening to African American voices and the African American church. Increase our engagement with the African American community in the cities we reside in, and pursue racial reconciliation wherever possible. I believe these are the days where we are to increase our love toward all people. I also think it's an opportunity for us to decrease the reactive impulse to turn the historic wound and current pain of the African American community into a political campaign, or to use this moment to push your political bias. Decrease any attitude of indifference or labeling, and reignite our passion to love the Lord our God with all that we are, and to love our neighbors as ourselves, and to respect and honor the Imago Dei in every human life and color. To decrease the plague of racism in this country, in the church, and in our own hearts. To decrease violence and just hatred toward all or any person. So today we are officially launching Engage Anti-Racism. It's a summer-long online learning community focused on education, on listening, and engagement. You can actually go right now to alongsiders.org/engage to actually see the PDF and begin to learn more. And I'm really thankful to the council members of the church, Joey King, as well as Aaron Dressler, and others who will be guiding us in this moment of Engage. And this is a way, as alongsiders, to increase as well as decrease. Engage is an invitation for anyone and everyone you think who would benefit from this 3-month learning community. Now, Engage Anti-Racism, there are 4 parts where you engage the mind, you engage the heart, you engage the ears, you will even engage the body. And to be part of Engage, you have to commit to being part of all of those 4 parts. It's not like, I want to do part 1, but I don't want to do part 2. No, you got to do part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. There's an engage, there's a commitment to this. And when you actually look at the word engage, it actually means to involve. It actually means that you stay steady in the process that you're in. And so we want people to commit to this. So make sure you can look at your summer life. This is all online, but look at your summer life. And if you feel like, yeah, I can actually give myself to this, and I actually want to give myself to this, or maybe you need to give yourself to this, and sign up today. It costs $25, and that will just help us as we create the materials and actually bring some people in for the webinar portion of Engage. But just do it today. Just take a look at it, read the PDF, understand what you're about to walk into. If you need to pray about it or process it, then go ahead and do so. But I'm going to invite every single one of you it's a summons, it's a call to engage. These are the days we just don't want to put our head in the sand or turn a blind eye. These are the moments where we get to hear the Spirit speak to us about the things that need to increase in us and the things that need to decrease in us. Just as John understood in his day. And so the summons is engage with us. Engage with yourself. Engage with this community and the wider conversation that's being had all across the world. So take a look. Once again, alongsiderschurch.org/engage. And take a look. If you have any questions, reach out and just ask. And we'll answer you as soon as we can. This morning, we're going to end by breaking bread, the Eucharist, each and every week. We're going to remember the love of Jesus towards us. We're going to pray for one another. Those in your room, if you've got people in the room, when you take the bread and you have the elements, turn to each other, pray, bless one each other. And I'm actually really thankful that this morning, Callie Love, a member of the Alongsiders community, is going to guide us this morning through a reading and a prayer. And as we enter into this life-giving season, this life-giving moment, I believe it is a life-giving season. No matter how chaotic and disrupted it is, I believe that God is speaking, and hopefully we're all paying attention. But in this moment, let us welcome God now as we move to the center of His heart and His person as we break bread together. I love you, much love to you, and I look forward to seeing you or talking to you or hearing from you very, very soon. Much love.
Good morning. My name is Callie Love, and I'm going to share my reflection of George Floyd through the only lens I can as a mother. A Black mother raising two beautifully made Black boys with expansive minds and tender hearts. I will read a portion of an article written by Lene O'Neill, as well as a prayer from Howard Thurman that I use to pray for balance while raising Black boys in this America. I didn't want to click on the video. I didn't want to see another police snuff film. I didn't want to watch whatever it is that compels someone to put his knee into a man's neck until he can no longer draw breath. But I heard that this Black man had called out to his mama as he lay dying, and I too am a Black mother. One of the ones since time immemorial who have to answer the sacred call, who have to answer the call for the divine sisterhood of Black mothers. Even when they are not our own, we are asked to bear witness. Mama, Floyd, 46, calls out. Mama, I'm through. The dying man says, and I recognize his words. A call to your mother is a prayer to be seen. Floyd's mother died 2 years ago, but he used her as a sacred invocation. It is the duty of Black mothers made sacred by all who threaten to call the police on Black people because they understand the country that we live in. It has been made sacred by all the prayers, all of the side deals that we try to cut with our God when Black boys cross streets or play in parks or get into cars or simply grow into men who do anything at all by being Black. It is made sacred by our need to protect against all the people who think that they hold dominion over Black lives, who over-police or underfund or over-report or wag their fingers in our faces. It's the vacant-looking father and son with rifles in Georgia. It's the masked female portfolio manager waving her cell phone in New York. The reptilian officer who has learned how to kneel a man to death in Minnesota. They may not see themselves, but we, the Black mothers, see you. To call out to his mother is to be known to his maker, the one who gave him to her. I watched the Floyd video. For us, the living. It's my sacred charge. I am a Black mother. The prayer is called Open Unto Me. Open unto me, light from my darkness. Open unto me, courage from my fear. Open unto me, hope from my despair. Open unto me, peace from my turmoil. Open unto me, joy from my sorrow. Open unto me, strength from my weakness. Open up unto me, wisdom from my confusion. Open unto me, forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me, love for my hates. Open unto me, thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me. Amen. As you head into Eucharist, I invite you to pray your own prayer, starting with Open unto me. Thank you.
you live? What would you give to know there's a hero beside you? Hold on, hold on. Help is closer than you know. And you got angels always around you, on guard day and night. No harm will overtake you. You have angels, angels always around you, on guard day and night. No harm will overtake you. You have angels, You don't have to fight. Heaven's on your side. Help is closer than you know. And you got angels always around you, on guard day and night. No harm will overtake you. You have angels, angels always around you, on guard day and night. No harm will overtake you. You have angels, Hello, maker of the moon. Your creation has inspired my every move. You're the science in the stars. There is beauty, there is fire in your eyes. Here we are, face to face, lost in wonder at the God of time and space. The universe declares your praise, singing holy, can feel your heartbeat beating. I can hear my God is speaking.